Hi, everyone. I'm Kylie Eaton, Interim Executive Director of Alliance of Women Directors. AWD is a nonprofit that is dedicated to increasing the number of women and gender expansive directors working in the entertainment industry. We also have an ally membership that's open to people of all genders and disciplines. Today, we're excited to partner with Netflix to bring you this FYC conversation moderated by AWD Icon member Tara Miele. She'll be talking with SIRENS director Nicole Kassell, who helmed the first two episodes of this incredible limited series. Now I'll turn it over to Tara.
Hi, everybody. My name is Tara Miele, and I'm excited to be moderating this conversation with DGA and Emmy Award-winning director Nicole Kassell. Most recently, Nicole executive produced and directed the first two episodes of Netflix and LuckyChap's limited series Sirens, for which she was nominated for an Emmy in the category of Outstanding Directing for a limited or anthology series or movie. It was released in May, and the series is an incisive, sexy, darkly funny exploration of women, power, and class. It stars Meghann Fahy, Julianne Moore, Miele Alcock, Kevin Bacon, and Glenn Howerton. Nicole is a DGA and Emmy Award-winning filmmaker who is one of the most sought-after directorial voices in television, and I am very lucky to call her a friend. Here we go. Hi, Nicole.
Hello.
Hello.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh, you are more than welcome. So I have to start just by like with like a little admission confession, which is like my ex-Catholic need. Um, so when I binged the show, everybody should know, I immediately texted Nikki and said, I need to get an hour with you to talk to you about
Oh,
all your choices and like the just how cohesive the tone was and what a genre mashup it was and how you balanced all those things. So first of all, congratulations on
thank
your,
you.
very
Really,
well
thank you so
deserved.
much.
And I'm so happy that now we get our time to talk.
Yeah, I really appreciate you taking the time to do this with me.
It's incredibly selfish of me and self-serving. So really happy to do it.
Great.
But maybe the first thing we could talk about is just the material, like what originally drew you to this project and, how did you find it? How did it come to you? What was the first thing that kind of like spoke to you about it?
Um, well, first, it was sent from Molly Smith Metzler and Lucky Chap, and right off the bat, I was like, those are all women and incredible Lucky Chap's, track record, the projects they've been producing.
Mhm.
So I was immediately really excited by the people and that Molly had done Made with Lucky Chap. And um, so I was really flattered and excited that they had come to me. And then I read the script and just was all in. I mean, I loved the tone first and foremost, like right away. It used to have a different beginning, but like instantly signaled like this is funny, this is weird, this is a like you're not sure what's happening. And I'm one of three sisters, so
Oh,
female relationships, dynamics, and I just loved that it hit kind of the three boxes for me of I can connect to it personally. Visually, I was immediately seeing it in my mind's eye, or the version that was what you got. And and then politically, that it left you that not like on the nose politics, but that it leaves you thinking, and like really examines um our prejudgments, our biases, our unconscious bias. I think it really leaves you with a lot to chew on, and that's always so important to me. And to be able to find a way that it's wrapped in this delicious eye candy, um, but and that it sparked such conversation has been really thrilling. So that's definitely what drew me to it. And I had to, I had my little kind of speed dating relationship with Molly before we got married, and because I only had the first episode to read, so I wasn't sure where the show was going to go. So first asked her a ton of questions, and then in a second meeting, I realized like I hadn't actually said how much I love the work. So in that second meeting, I was like, this is what I love, and presented images to say like this is what I'm seeing, and sound also for this. I don't often pull music, but I pulled songs.
what was one of the memorable songs that you
Oh
pulled
my
to
God.
remember?
American Bitch by Emmeline. Um,
Yeah.
and my daughter helped me out, but some really great, uh, I can pull it up, just some like spot on contemporary.
Yeah, some newer stuff. It is very
Yeah.
helpful to have a teenager who has
Yes.
like all the new
Yeah,
music on like on their brain catalog ready to go too.
exactly.
Yeah,
But Emmeline had a couple of the songs, just perfect.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm curious, so in talking about how the tone of the script hit you so much, which I think is the most exciting thing maybe about this series. I mean, listen, there's a
Mhm.
lot. Let me just gush for a second because the performances are incredible.
Mhm.
And like you said, how it's so delicious and also has a message. And it is funny and it is absurd and it is emotional and it is a little dangerous and scary. So, can you talk a little bit about making a cohesive show that captures all of that and maybe what some of the greatest challenges in conversation were to that and how you navigated some of that.
Um, well, it's definitely what scared people the most, the executives. Like, could we land this tone? How do you do this tone? And I felt in some ways Watchmen was similar in that like episode one was you're in so many different genres and it
Yeah.
shouldn't work. But like, um, what I always go back to is when I read that script, I felt the roller coaster of all of those moments. Um, and I went on that wild ride and you had me at the end. And so, it's really, it is asking people to take a huge leap of faith, but for me, it's really trusting the writing, that the script holds through. And then each scene, you're not trying to make every scene funny, emotional, scary. Like it's just allowing each scene to be what it is.
Dictate what
If
you're
this
actually
is a
doing.
more comedic scene, approach it that way. If this is a more dramatic scene, approach it that way.
Mhm.
But trusting that they'll link together. And so that's, I mean, it's not really an answer, but it's
Well, in
I
some ways, like, yeah, specifically in the beginning, even when you're introducing character, right? When we first see Kiki, we are in Greek mythology land,
yes,
right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
then when we see Devon,
yeah,
we are in the real world.
yeah,
And then
yeah,
you see Simone and you're in aspirational land. I mean, it's just
exactly.
so clear. You're like,
Yeah,
these are the things we're going to present from these points of
yeah,
view.
yeah,
And then you're sort of marrying them and navigating them as you
yeah,
go.
yeah. And I think one of the other one of the things that helps hold it all together is keeping um, a very grounded and believable performance.
Mhm.
That it's the across those three, that spectrum, everyone is 100%. Um, it's not broad, it's not
Yeah.
slapstick. Um, and I think, that is one of the things I kind of gained from previous experience was just give me the most wild, wacky scenario, but I can still keep it grounded. And I think that is something I bring to it. I don't know how I do that, but now that I've done it a bunch, I understand that's what people have been drawn to in my work.
Right. Well, and I'm sure that those conversations with the actors are helpful, right? For
Yeah,
them to be able to ground and stay in a reality for
yeah.
themselves.
No, and every one of those characters had a rich backstory, a rich reason to being. And I met with the actors, Molly and I met with the actors. There wasn't a lot of official rehearsal, but there was definitely a lot of conversation. Um, but I also think there's that glue of sound design and score that you can't underestimate, and
Mhm.
score, like Michael Abel's score is just like beyond genius. And I think there's so much that holds, carries tonally through the piece that way.
Right. And so can you talk about like maybe like what was the thing that you felt you where you could go the most absurdist or
Mhm.
extreme? And then we just talked about the performances were the thing that was the most grounded. So
Yeah.
what was the opposite end of that for you?
Um, I guess production design and costume design. I mean, my
The
God.
costumes, the Easter
I mean,
eggs.
the color palette, like we really pushed the envelope of, there were references of Lily Pulitzer and this island culture, and we just leaned into it to the nth degree, and that it was a billionaire home. So
Right.
like what they can buy, but also again, character driven, like Kiki is an environmentalist. So her house is filled with organic, like nature things.
Mhm.
Just $1 billion worth,
Right.
but that's the aesthetic is definitely heightened. Um, and I really wanted to lean into, like I said, the weird or the uncanny, because there's a deep well of this genre now of the rich people problem story. And
Yeah.
it was very important to me, like, how can we set this apart from White Lotus, Perfect Couple, any of those. And it was by bringing in this heightened, kind of the world building element.
Right. And it gives you a little bit too of a nod to like a Stepford
Yeah,
existence.
yeah,
So which takes me into a little bit of like the point of view of these three women and not villainizing anybody at the end of the day, which I found so fascinating, right? And what women have to do to navigate the world.
yeah.
And I wonder if there was a lot of conversation about that, specifically with Juliana, because she's not really a mustache twirling villain.
No, she's not at all. I think there definitely was a lot of conversation, and just making sure, that she wasn't blamed for things she should not be blamed for,
Hmm.
or I think, I mean, this is an interesting example. I think I um, can share. That when Millie Alcock's character in the later episode reveals she's gone off her meds, and
Yeah.
Megan Devon thinks it's because of Kiki's doctor. And there could have been that version, but it was really important that it was Simone's own doctor. It's not just because Kiki says meds are bad for you.
Right.
It's actually under the guidance of her own. And had it been Kiki's doctor that had done that, it would have had a totally different impact.
Right. A bit
Um,
more like manipulative danger, right? Like
yeah,
dangerous manipulation, as opposed to her trying her best to lift this young girl up, which is
yeah,
really at the heart of what her
yeah,
relationship with her.
yeah,
Yeah. Um, okay, so what, in terms of that absurdity, or I feel like sometimes as a director, some of my job is to ask for more, more, more.
yeah,
And then
yeah.
sometimes my job is to resist
Right.
what I could have. Like, sometimes there's like, we could put a drone on it, we could do that, like, or the stunt could be
Right.
bigger, or would you like this or that? And sometimes the job is to say no. Did you ever feel like there was a version of something that you felt, you know what, that's too far? I have to pull back there, or I have to say no to that. It doesn't feel real in our world or anything like that.
Um, not, I mean, we definitely really in the edit pulled back on actually a lot of the comedy, and for example, like in the jail scene in episode 2, that actor Kat is just deliciously comedic. And
Sure.
she gave us so much and different takes, and so are, Megan can be so funny, Ray, like this cast has insane potential chops. So in the edit, there was a lot of pulling back just to make sure it didn't tip
Sure.
too broad, which was hard. There were a lot of darlings killed because there were some great, great jokes.
That's
So
the
in that
perfect
sense,
example. That's it, right? Where you're like, well, it's so funny, and
yeah,
yet it's not in this world,
yeah,
and it's not in our tone, and we just have to lose it. Like it's wonderful, and it's not right for this. Oh,
right,
it's like
yeah.
heartbreaking.
I have another example I love of making something weirder than what it was, which
Okay.
was the funeral for Barnaby in episode 2. When it was first written, it was written on the beach. And we had that beach, but it was very hard to get to because of the
Yeah.
staircase. And the tide, like the time you would need, would be underwater. There were many logistical reasons where we couldn't do that. And we had found the location for the aviary, and there was this great, beautiful field and woods. And I had Fellini just came to mind. I was like, it'd be so funny to see the Easter eggs marching to the funeral.
Yes, it's like the
And
best.
you're right. And
Yes,
then,
it's a great nod.
and yeah, and Molly had written that, the beach had a cello. And I was like, I want a oboe. I couldn't see a cello on the beach. And I have a friend who's an oboist. And, and Molly was like, great. So,
Uh,
and there's that famous Fellini image of, or parade from 8 and a Half, where there's the trumpeter
they're
lead.
marching, yeah.
And so my friend was the oboist, and then our amazing composer, he's like, I think you need a harp. And so our props was like a harp. And the next thing you know, Felix is in the show saying,
Oh, I love it.
great, a harp, so that was just so fun to kind of create the sequence from like, how can we make it even more absurd than just cut to people sitting in their chairs.
Oh, that's so wonderful. I think, it's funny because I do think the best collaborations are that where you become a part of something that, is greater than you. Like you could not have had that scene without Molly's incredible scene and then your incredible take on it and then the composer and your oboist, like that kind of greatness, I think really only comes from like a large team effort. I find that so
Absolutely.
special.
It's the dream. That is
That's the
like,
dream.
that's the dream of this collaboration where,
Yeah.
it's you're just playing jazz together and everyone is upping each other's ante.
Yeah. So I love that you mentioned the steps. I have been on a lot of sets in beautiful places where the tide is going to eat us, or the stairs, or the poor crew is doing the stairs. What were the challenges of shooting on location like that?
Yeah.
Was there,
Yeah.
tell me a little bit about that and how the crew
Um,
survived.
well, we actually used that staircase very little. But it was the hinge of our location. We scouted Boston and New York
Mm.
looking for the staircase, and the house, looking for that house. And it was the last house we saw in New York, and that landed us here. And I'm in New York, is here. And but the house is not in real, people keep asking, where is that house? I'm like, it's in our mind's eye.
In your
The
head. Yeah.
third floor doesn't exist. We did it, we took definitely $1 million house, but made it into this. Um, so yeah, and the challenges with filming on that staircase, one, we could not put any equipment next to it so
Right.
that
The
anything,
dunes are
yeah,
preserved and yeah.
yeah. So it was drone for anything kind of tracking was a drone shot. And then we just kind of leapfrogged. We'd put we'd get cameras on certain level, and also the staircase could only hold so many people at a time. So um it was the assistant director team just extraordinarily scheduled things, but it was those limitations, like when you're on the staircase, it's a locked camera on sticks, if anything, maybe a slider.
Right.
And then for like Millie Alcock, who had to run up and down them a lot, we had a stunt double to help out with the close-ups and the extreme wide shots.
Yeah.
But we really, for my 2 episodes, we were on location for 5 days. So the rest was for all the exteriors, both in the rear and front. Um, the rest was different locations.
Okay, so I want to talk about really quickly the marrying of those things was
Yeah.
deftly done. So congratulations, because
Oh,
it's
thank
not
you.
always easy. And I know when
Yeah,
you're on set, you're
really
always
good.
like thinking, okay, what side of the line were we on? How are they entering? What's the light? And is it going to work? Um, but I think this also takes us to the siren shot, which is
Mm,
not just this beautiful close up where the actors are looking right into lens, right at you, right at each other, and the world is falling off behind them. But the first time you use it, it jumps time and space. So
yeah.
Juliana
Mm,
and Millie turn to each other and they're in the house. And then when they answer each other, they run down the
yeah.
beach. And I just was like, oh, the Maya Deren of it all. So can you talk about
Yeah.
how that came to you,
Yeah.
how you
Yeah.
decided to integrate it, when you used it, when you didn't?
Sure. Um, It's similar to the parade conversation where it's the evolution just landed into this amazing result. But early on in pre-production, Greg Middleton, the DP, and I were talking about, I knew there'd be sound design, that I wanted the actors to, that the actors hear this humming, or the whole theme of sirensing, like when are you being sirened by someone? And what's the visual equivalent?
Mm-hmm.
And we both had the luck of knowing Jonathan Demme because he had directed on The Killing that Greg DP'd and staggered with me. So I, had lunch with him and met Jonathan Demme. But so we both have Jonathan Demme kind of in our hearts and our film DNA. And very early on, we talked about the Hannibal Lecter, Clarice super close-ups,
Oh,
and Jonathan uses it, in The Killing. He just loved that device of really having the actor looking in the lens, so the audience member feels like they are like being gazed at. So we came up with that plan, and then we had originally the dialogue that's going down the staircase, in the lobby interior of the house, was originally on the huge staircase out location. And again, logistically, how to film dialogue on a location and out in the sun. Julianne did not want to be in the sun any more than she had to be. So, and we didn't have time and on our location days to do it. So that I just had that light bulb moment of like, this is the perfect moment to go into the close-ups, the siren scene. We in that moment, to me, it's the first time we feel in Simone's shoes, like the last year of their lives together, just why Simone is so in love with her and how it feels to be looked at by her and loved by her. Um, so it was the perfect moment to introduce that aesthetic, that device. And I love a transition like that, where you like suddenly you're somewhere new. And we had talked about wanting soft focus transitions too. So it gave me two things. Like one, I could leap from the bottom of the interior staircase to the beach and not even take Julie there, except for the close-up. Like I didn't even need her to run. I could use a stunt double to run. So she was outside for a minimal amount.
amazing.
And that soft focus could be our transition to Meghann. Yeah.
And also, you and I talked about this briefly at some point, but that, as a pilot director, you set things in motion. You don't know if the series directors following you will
Yeah.
pick up and carry on what you tried to build and what you tried to establish, but
Yeah.
they really did. The directors who came after you were
They
pretty,
did.
I thought, very loyal to your
Yes.
style, which
Yeah.
is part of the success of the series, really.
Yeah. When I saw dailies that had either that or there's some extreme hide wides,
Yes, yes,
but
yes.
I was so touched and honored and flattered and thrilled, and that they each found a moment in their episodes, and credit also to the DPs who embraced that language.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was really thrilling to kind of pick and choose exactly when to use the the siren shot.
Well, and I don't doubt that you establishing that in the pilot then helped the writers think about, is there a
Oh, that's
moment,
neat.
right?
Yeah,
Getting
that's
forward. And
true.
that to me
Yeah,
is the best version where the communication is a braid, right? Going
yeah,
back and
yeah,
forth.
yeah.
Okay, so talking about working with Greg, um, was there anything else in particular? I love how your establishing shots are very frontal and very objective, and I think
Mhm.
that helps the tone of things. The overheads give you that God POV, almost like a
Yeah.
chorus in a way. Was there anything else that you discovered with Greg that, you felt like was so essential in setting the tone?
Well, in terms of kind of that mystery danger feeling, was also like, when is there a camera from who we don't know whose point of view? Like who
Mhm.
that sense, like when Devin realizes you're always being watched, there's cameras everywhere. So that was really liberating to play with, like, dirty frames, like, who just trying to keep people off kilter.
Yeah.
The audience, I mean, just a little uncomfortable. Um, was one. And yes, we did a lot of those kind of, for me, the objective kind of wider shot that's more the lighter touch, the comedy framing.
Mhm.
We definitely spent a lot of time looking for our transitions. And one of my favorite Greg moments was in episode 2 when we recreate the siren shot on in the bedroom in the bed
With them
between.
sideways. Yeah.
Yeah, and again, it was another siren-y moment. And for some reason, I just felt like I wanted to go sideways there. And Greg invented this incredible camera rig. I can't exactly tell you how it worked, but with 2 cameras and mirrors, he made it so that the actors could film together. Because I know,
Wait,
I
tell me everything. Start from the beginning.
um, well,
Well,
uh,
just to set up for maybe emerging directors. The shot is the two women are lying face to face in bed, or whoever's watching this,
yeah,
face to face in bed, and the camera feels like it's like where the other actor would be, right up to their face, and the whole world behind them is out of focus. And then it does the reverse, right? So the women feel quite close, but as a director, you imagine an actor is across the room because there's gear and there's a big crane or there's something laying in the bed. And Nikki is saying somehow they did it at the same time. So okay.
and that again, to Greg's credit, was like it's hard to ask an actor to look in the lens
Yeah.
to act a quite sensitive scene. And that was his prioritizing performance.
Wow.
So we got 2 single beds and
Okay.
laid them like this, and the camera was here in the middle with a certain series of mirrors. Yeah, if you look on my Instagram, and it's like a fort. I mean, it was like playing, it was amazing to say to Julianne Moore, like, do you mind crawling under this sheet and
So
into
cool.
a like they were so game and just beautiful. But so, we got this magical moment cinematically and performance wise by, facilitating them being able to do it together.
Okay, so this speaks again to something that has come up in this conversation about how a cinematographer is helping an actor to
Yes.
give their best. And then it's a collaboration between the original idea and
Mm.
all of those sort of departments wanting to be of service to each other that
Yeah.
actually makes it the best thing it can be, right? I
Yeah.
just think that's so like the best of the best.
It is. And one more example of that is the scene where Devin goes in Simone's bedroom. She's in
Yeah.
episode 2. She swum to the island, which
She's
is
like the Navy SEAL. Yeah, she's like covered in a wetsuit and all crazy.
yes. And she goes in and there's that huge sister fight. And then it gets interrupted by Julianne Moore. And she scares the crap out of them and everything changes. And it was a big page count. I don't know if it was 10 pages or something, but I realized this was a big favor to ask of the actors, but we rehearsed it all. And then I asked Simone and Devin, like Millie and Meghann, if they would mind if I start with Julianne's interrupting, because that was going to just it's more actors, more time, just more, more contained. And so we spent, over half the day on that final chunk of the scene. Um, and everybody's starting to get worried about their watches or clocks. And I said to Greg, once I'd seen it rehearsed, it's like, Greg, I really want the actors to be able to go nonstop
Mhm.
until Julianne scares them. And again, he heard my wish and he lit it so we could go through all 3 rooms, 4 rooms, and land without, needing to cut for lighting. And then it's one of the few sequences where the operators went handheld and they're both in there. And the actors got to do it like a play. And I think
Yeah.
it really was like 8 pages. And it's one of the few times in my life where I've seen a standing ovation on set by the crew, like, and the actors, they were just losing their minds. And we did, I don't know, maybe 4 takes.
Hmm.
And and maybe we did like one pickup because we just couldn't get a camera out of this one move. But the actors were just out of their minds with happiness, and it was
It's so
so
gratifying.
exhilarating. It was so fun. It was
And
so
when you were doing, just this is me like really geeking. So you did the 4 takes, and were you popping a lens towards the end to do tighter versions, or was it always sort of like we're trying to look for one that'll match for every, like we're looking for the one basically from, 2 cameras.
No, I knew I would be able to cut them because but I can't remember if I swung a lens or not.
Mhm.
I don't think I did. I
Wow.
think I don't think I did. I
That's
yeah.
so fun. It's so
So it
fun.
felt like a oneer, though not a
Yeah.
oneer.
Also, I just wanted to talk about, I don't know if you have a thing about this, but I am always obsessed with first and last frames. So
Mm.
can you talk a little bit about your first frame that you shot with Juliana walking through the fields on
Yeah,
the cliff?
yeah.
And then maybe
So
your last frames of both, if you feel that way about episode 2 as well.
sure. So the very first image was not actually how the script was written. It was originally written to open with Devin coming out of the police station.
Mm.
Um, but when we filmed that sequence with Julianne and the costume, and I mean, again, it was almost an emotional moment because so much went into the making of this gown and this absurd gown. There's it's nothing
She's
practical
like a morning
about,
walk in her like Grecian, gorgeous
yeah.
$80,000 gown.
But again, it's like it was so amazing because when I read the words, this woman walking through the morning light, like a Greek goddess, there was no description of her being dressed like a Greek goddess, but it was just like that's of course what she had to be wearing. Um, but when I saw it in the cut, and so when we filmed it, I wanted Steadicam, this ethereal, lyrical, her everything about her is very lyrical. Um, and um, we came up off the gown, moving through the grass, the long grass, and it almost looks like a river of silk, and was so beautiful. And the lighting and everything, just again, the genius of the AD and Greg figuring out exactly what the 20 minutes we had to get this. So when I saw it in the cut, I think the first thing I asked Molly was, could I pull that sequence up to open the episode? It just had the clout, the grandeur, the beauty, the
The
weirdness.
defining nature of it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And Buffalo's Buffalo. It's just gritty. It just didn't have the impact,
I feel like that should be like on the sign when you enter. Buffalo is Buffalo, you know?
Exactly.
It's real.
Um, so that's how we came up with that first image. And again, I just love the homage to Caroline Duncan, and she got an Emmy nomination, which is
Yes.
like beyond thrilling.
Incredible work.
Um,
Also, just before you move on from that, like even the way that Kiki is gliding through nature in the very first shot, it's still character. It's still
yeah,
her, right? Like
absolutely.
she might be this like Greek goddess, but she is grounded in, literally grounded in her being on the earth and
Yeah,
touching to the earth, which is so
yeah,
beautiful.
yeah. She's essentially barefoot. She's actually handling this falcon.
God, that gorgeous falcon.
I know. And then the end shot, that end sequence of the punch-ins to her with the bird and Megan
Oh,
Devon's
yeah.
like, jerk away. Um, when it was very easy to come up with, um, I immediately thought of Hitchcock and the birds. Did you? Like there's
So
that.
many good homages.
Yes, I know. It was really fun. But that one was from the birds when Tippi Hedren comes in the room. It's the first death, and like she sees this man crumpled in the corner, and it does these shock cuts in on his face with the eyes poked out or eaten out. And so I wanted Megan Devon to have that exact same shock value. And it's not realistic that she's looking across the water at Michaela or vice versa, but I wanted them to psychically be looking at each other and for her to have that emotional impact of the where a jump cut forward is an emotional zoom in, if it makes sense.
It's well, and it's almost like it pulls Devon into the mythology that like right like that last shot like she is now she's in
Yeah,
some deeper way. Even the
right,
fact that you couldn't actually see her from there, the fact
right.
that Devon can, to me, is like it speaks to the a little bit of the absurdity, a little bit of the mythology and the larger than lifeness that you
Yes,
established, which is lovely.
exactly. And it also ties into Devon's kind of psychology of like my sister, she has to believe that her sister is at risk to to give herself purpose.
Yeah.
It instigates her journey as the hero savior, even though her sister's not asking to be saved.
Hmm. Hmm. Can you, I think we probably have like time for like one, two more.
Yeah.
And I think, a couple of times editorial has come up in terms of where to pull back on humor or maybe a little rearrange. Can you just talk about that process? I think it's such the last stage of writing. And so as
Yes.
a pilot
Yeah.
director who's working for a showrunner who has such a clear sort of sense of their own progress of a story, can you talk about how you navigated that or what that relationship was like as you were moving? Like, I love how you said, as soon as I saw it, I called Molly and said, what do you
Yeah.
think? Like there really is that conversation to be
Yeah.
had.
Yeah. Um, yeah, Post was incredible. Another shout out to our editors with Kate Haight, who was Emmy nominated, Laura Zempel and Isaac Aheki, and they just were phenomenal. But yeah, I mean, it was pretty classic, like that I did the director's cut and then Molly came in. And then after that, we would get the notes and, and, and all meet and talk about them. And then Kate would go do her work. And so it was, I mean, what I loved about Sirens is that I stayed in post-production all the way through the final mix on all five
You were on as an
episodes.
EP as well.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Um, but it really was that, you're kind of you're going this direction, then that direction, overcorrecting.
Yeah.
Should it be more a murder mystery? Should it be more a sister story? Did we take out too much weird? Did we lean too weird? Did we take out too much comedy to put so it really is that tone you're on the razor's edge with, and you fall back and forth until you land right on it. And it's a lot of brainstorming. And then Kate just, she really found some amazing things when she just went into it on her own. And, like when the sisters collide back together for the first time in episode one, she really, I just love how she managed to get all my favorite moments emotionally, but also, um, she just carved it together in such a gorgeous way. And things that she came up with, like the funny when Devon's approaching the house sequence, and Millie's doing her like getting ready, preparing, inspecting the staff. Those were written as separate sequences, but even
Ah,
in the director's cut, she had intercut those. She
mhm.
immediately saw that to
Right.
make
The
it
contrast
dynamic.
of that fruit basket, her
Yeah,
sweating and lugging her way in with like the
yeah,
pink megaphone and the right, like the absurdity of both edges of
exactly,
those experiences.
exactly.
That's really wonderful.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about the process of, I think when you're living on a set, it can so often feel like, oh gosh, now we're on a set. And instead it feels like we're in this glorious mansion for so much of the show. And can you talk a little bit about working with the production designer and the set dressers to create that world?
Yeah.
how is it so grounded and a little absurdist and a little
Right.
extreme? And what were
Right.
those conversations like?
Um, they were, I mean, Rich would just, the set dresser would just take us on walks through, like right away he started grabbing stuff, like his shop just exploded. And I mean, he was having so much fun and, but tucking weird things in here or there, but then just also like high-end furniture. And I mean, the set was massive. We had the biggest stage at Steiner and for an interior house. But again, um, it was one of those amazing things when John first presented to us. He showed like, oh, the wall of curiosities,
Oh, right.
and he made it, and he designed it. Rich filled it all in, and I mean, even the scepter that like, the props. I mean, props.
Is
We
she
haven't talked
carrying a
about
scepter?
props.
Yeah.
Yes. And, and the prop Diana Burton, just brilliant, legendary prop designer here. They're all working together. They
Mhm.
just had so much fun being encouraged to push beyond the box. Um, and in
Well,
terms of, we had to create this compound. So we drew a map of the compound, like you said, that none of these locations actually lived next to each other.
connect. Right.
So they'd walk off set here, and
And
into
then 3 days later, when you're shooting in the
yeah,
kitchen, they're walking into the
yeah.
kitchen. Yeah.
Or like from the exterior of the guest house to the back of the main house was 60 miles apart, but um so that was a puzzle for sure of how to piece everything together. And then exactly those, how to link inside and outside, very carefully, um, was a puzzle. But again, so much fun. And, I think that one of the other things that I think, um, I've kind of touched on, but is like the genius work and hard work that went into the scheduling of this for those exterior scenes, for us to be where we needed the sun to be when we needed it, meant, making compromises and, the most efficient like way to approach the day. And, so like literally like when we introduce Simone's character and she's on the balcony and the sun's behind her, like those moments also on set kind of bring me to tears, where I just like my gratitude to the people understanding why we inconvenienced
Right.
many
Why it
souls,
matters. Why it matters.
know.
So can you talk about that? So you're shooting in these exterior locations. It's long summer days, right? You're shooting in the summer. And so sun is up at 6, sun is down at 9. So how are you getting the best light? What are you doing in the
Right.
middle of the day if you don't have any interior locations in that spot?
That one we did have interior.
Oh, you did have some. Okay.
Yeah,
So you're moving
Simone's
inside and then coming
introduction.
back out.
Exactly. Simone, we shot on the balcony that she literally goes into Ethan's bedroom from.
I see.
So
Right,
and
right,
that
right.
was sunset playing for sunrise. I don't think we ever did a sunrise because we'd have to be on location at 4.
We're in the morning.
So all of our sunrise, like Julianne Moore's sunrise, the opening sunrise is also sunset.
Right, right, right.
Yeah. And then I mean, and we also haven't talked about VFX. Like there's actually a lot of VFX in here that is hopefully invisible.
It's
But
all invisible. Tell us the one that
yeah.
you most are like, wow, that's the one.
Um, well, one was, I mean, obviously Barnaby coming through the window
Yes,
is,
right.
and that's like everyone's going to know it is, but still like it's still heartbreaking. And but one of again, like the way that we made this mansion into a billionaire, like everything third story up is VFX. Um, when Peter's outside on his perch, the perch was interior. Yes. So all of that background
That's great.
from location cameras. But one of my
There's so much
favorite,
trust, by the way. Like it's that
oh, it's
blind trust when you're
terrifying.
on set and you're with Kevin Bacon and you're like, I know it, you're just on a stage. It's gonna look great, I swear.
Yeah.
And you're
I mean,
trusting your
surrounded
VFX
by
team.
blue flags,
Yeah.
like, yeah.
Yeah.
But one of my favorite was actually the very, very last shot of the whole episode season. You know, when Simone's standing on the cliff's edge and there's that gorgeous, Lila Neugebauer directed that, but when you pulled back, the sky was just kind of blah. And I was just like, I know this shot can be gorgeous and should be gorgeous, but it's not as beautiful as
Yeah.
that close up.
Right.
You know, because again, they got that sunset and
Yeah.
it's like even playing in the windows behind her. And so I just asked VFX, like, can you give the glorious sunset in the sky above? And that was a easy ask, and they were able to do it. And just like, and that made all the difference to me in
Mhm.
terms of like, you can go out on on this shot now.
It's
Um,
just night and day. Like
yeah,
either it works or it doesn't work, right? And I feel like every time I come to a series or a movie or a show, VFX can do something else. Like there's something else they've figured out. They're like, oh, we know how to do water now. Oh, we can,
yes, yeah, yeah,
you know,
yeah, yeah,
and you're
yeah,
always like, oh, well, that tool is, going to save, or the set extension that they can do
yeah,
more easily now when you want to go that big, big wide.
yeah.
That's
And
really,
we had some day for night also, and I'd never done that before. So that was VFX doing sky replacement, you know, putting in stars or more dramatic moonlight. And um, yeah, and you know, as we watched the episodes evolve, you know, I will take credit, take the shot hit for like I asked a lot of VFX, and sometimes people would say, stand down, you know, like that's, but most of the time I felt really supported and like, oh, that's really worth doing. But it caused the post supervisor a lot of anxiety, you know, like there, you
your
know,
job is
everything
to
you ask
ask.
for is, it is,
Your
you know,
job is to ask, right?
and I love that, you know, but it is being directing as being the toddler and producing as being the parent, you
That's
know.
exactly right. That's exactly right. Okay, so last question, because I think we're wrapping up, but this has been really lovely, Nicole. So thank you. What do you have coming next? What are you excited about? What are you aiming at next, even creatively in your head, if you don't want to say a specific project? Like, what are your hopes for next?
I have a couple things in the works that have been actually in the works pre-Sirens. You know, I've got well, both. I've got a handful of features and a TV show I'm in the works on. And the closest one is Knockwood, a film for Netflix about the 1999 Women's World Cup soccer team. So it's exciting for me. I've never done a sports genre show movie, but my filmmaker, as a kid, I grew up, you know,
Oh my God.
with the Black Stallion, The Natural, Apollo 13, The Right Stuff, and
Yeah.
Miracle. So I'm really having fun thinking about and working towards getting that going. Um, and then on the opposite spectrum for television, developing a live action version of She-Ra for Amazon.
Best.
And
That's
um,
the
and
best.
that's so fun. And Heidi Schreck is writing that. And
Oh
again, it's world building, but very similar to Sirens, like incredible female driven characters and so much we can so much meaningful conversation
my
to tuck
gosh.
into this really entertaining.
I
I
mean, I grew up on Shira and He-Man,
right? Yeah,
yeah, I mean, for
yeah.
sure. And I am looking forward to that in your hands.
Not good for all of it.
And the World Cup. I mean, my little one's in AYSO and we love going to Angel City, and we
Yes.
watched the documentary about how Angel City came to be. And
Oh,
so
cool.
we're really in the world of women's soccer right now, and I nothing could be more gratifying to be a fan of. It's just such a great
Exactly.
world.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. This was
Thanks.
really amazing.
Yeah, this was
Um,
great. I can't wait to see you in person soon, I hope.
Same.
Thank you so much to our partners at Netflix, Tara Miele and Nicole Kassell, for this wonderful conversation. If you would like more information about AWD, please visit us at allianceofwomendirectors.org.